today. What is he doing here? I thought I got rid of you. I'm across the country, yet somehow, someway, you find yourself right here in front of me asking questions. Oh, goodness. Folks, you ever have that one person that you'll be around, whether it's at work, right? Whether it was at school growing up, maybe a family reunion, a family gathering, a get-together, the in-law shows up.
The room's energy changed. A black cloud came down. The biggest figure in athletics, Caitlin Clark, appeared clearly ill, her face twisted at the sight of one specific reporter. It was more than a sour mood. It was an unmistakable bodily dislike of Scott Agnes, the Fieldhouse Files reporter who had ostensibly followed her across the nation just to be before her once more. This was not a professional irritation. Her features were carved with sheer, unmitigated disdain. A hushed public admission of a long-standing grudge that would astound onlookers. Her normally upbeat attitude disappeared, replaced by a tense attempt to maintain her composure, revealing a conflict that ran far deeper, more than anyone could have predicted. Just the image said a lot. Her genuine emotions were betrayed by a story of division that was playing out in front of us in real time. The normally composed athlete's strong negative reaction was obviously the result of something significant, signifying a moment of true, unadulterated emotion.
That you'll be around, whether it's at work, right? Whether it was at school growing up, maybe a family reunion, a family gathering, a get-together, the in-law shows up, the cousin shows up, the uncle, the aunt, and then just instantly, as soon as they arrive, the energy just shifts, right? As soon as they show up, a dark cloud just comes hovering around that environment. Sometimes it even trickles down to you, right? You at work, you won't be disrespectful, but you'll be short, you'll be brief, hard to crack a smile, hard to garner any type of positive emotion. Well, Caitlin Clark.
Imagine that person that suddenly darkens the atmosphere at work or a family get-together, making you feel uneasy and even sick. Your answers would be condensed and succinct, but you wouldn't be disrespectful. A strained civility that lacks warmth. When Caitlin Clark met Scott Agnes, there was a noticeable change in energy. Unspoken tension began to permeate the air, which was a significant change from the usual athlete-reporter interaction. Her uncomfortable body language made it obvious that this was a conflict she had to endure rather than a light-hearted exchange. The difference was such stark, so undeniable, it left no room for insight into her actual emotions in relation to his present. This was more than just a dislike. It was a deeply rooted dislike that showed up physically, creating a striking image of contempt and separation in the eyes of the public.
Hard to garner any type of positive emotion. Well, Caitlin Clark seemed to get physically ill at the sight of Scott Agnes. Scott, salute to you, Scott. Dude, great work with the interviews and so on and so. Great work, Scott. From the dark side to you, great work. Caitlin Clark doesn't seem to be, folks, all I know is that if I'm getting an interview somewhere, if I'm a player for a team and a beat reporter, somebody who's around the team often and I like them, they show up somewhere where I'm not expecting them, I'm like, oh, dude,
Scott Agnes was met with a stiff, almost robotic answer when he asked about competitive juices, putting on a show, and expecting spectators. Clark found it difficult to conjure any sincere excitement. Her eyes lacked the typical sparkle, and her smile was strained. She was enduring rather than participating in the interaction, which felt forced. She was obviously exerting a lot of effort to gather herself and conceal the deep-seated uneasiness his presence had caused. This was not the lively, exuberant Caitlin Clark that her admirers had grown to love. It was a reserved, almost resentful rendition that obviously wanted the conversation to conclude as soon as possible. There was no denying the tension. A stark visual representation of the division Agnes had everyone is left wondering about the actual depth of their tense connection as it appears to be sown and is now showing up right in front of the camera.
But when you see somebody you don't like, what up? Let's see what exactly transpired. I'm not going to give you some stills. Let's get it in its full context, shall we?
With it.
Frank, go for it.
Galen, Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files. I'm just curious, what was it like to have that competitive juices?
Damn. Head down. Like, damn. No eye contact. Damn.
Running through you once again, even though and then also putting on a show as someone who knows the fans are here to see you.
Yeah, I mean, like, these are the things that you love, like being competitive and, you know, even.
Then a total metamorphosis. When Caroline Collins from Visit St. Pete Clearwater came out, it was like witnessing a completely new person. Caitlin Clark's expression brightened. A real, beautiful smile that is blossoming and glowing like a Christmas tree. Complete acknowledgement, adoration, and perfect eye contact. There was every indication of warmth and involvement. The change was startling. A striking illustration of how closely her feelings were linked to the person posing the queries. This was Caitlin Clark. Everyone recognized her as happy, well-spoken, and very relaxed, ready to share intimate tales of her family's trips. This was more than just being polite. When she interacted with someone she truly valued, it was a genuine relationship that revealed her actual self. An unmistakable contrast that conveyed her contempt for Agnes.
Now the question is, why? Why? Let's play body language, doctor. We're having fun. Why? Well, you have to think that Caitlin Clark does care about her image. She does care about her standing with fans. And if you look at some of the biggest controversies around the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, most likely this season, you'll think of two scenarios, right? Scott Agnes calling Fever fans the dark side. Her fans bringing a darkness.
It was evident that she was having trouble gathering herself when Agnes showed up. It seemed as though an inner voice cried out, "Damn him again." She had to exert a great deal of effort in order to gather her thoughts. This was not a light-hearted press encounter, despite her obvious dislike. It was a real-time psychological struggle. In order to hide the unease that Agnes' presence caused, she had to deliberately repress her own emotions. Her professionalism was demonstrated by the quick transition from obvious contempt to strict impartiality. However, anyone who watched closely could see how much work was needed. This exposed a long-standing problem. It was more than simply a passing irritation. It was a fundamental issue that required her to control her emotions right away.
Most likely this season, you'll think of two scenarios, right? Scott Agnes calling Fever fans the dark side. Her fans bringing a darkness with them, a dark cloud with them. That's one. That, she probably didn't like that. Number two, Scott Agnes taking it upon himself to reveal an injury that the team was actively hiding. And that created even more division within the fan base. Caitlin Clark has to be looking at him like, dude, the amount of shit.
The fundamental cause of this chilly reception stems from Scott Agnes' contentious prior statements. He infamously referred the Fever fans, more especially Caitlin Clark's ardent supporters, as the dark side, implying that they carried a cloud of negativity. This was no small jab. It caused a great deal of divisiveness and animosity, since it was a clear insult to the very fan base that supported Clark. Such a public snub would surely be taken personally by an athlete as image-conscious as Clark, who has a strong bond with her fans. By defining a distinct boundary between the two, the reporter had successfully alienated the same community that Clark had fought so hard to foster. His reporting and her supporters permanently harming his reputation in her eyes. This provocative remark was a direct assault on her devoted fan base. A gesture that undoubtedly solidified his status as someone she didn't want.
And that created even more division within the fan base. Caitlin Clark has to be looking at him like, dude, the amount of shit you did to the fans that follow me, the amount of division that you cause within the fan base that follows me, I'm gonna have to let you feel it a little bit, Scott. You're not getting any cosigns out of me. You don't think Caitlin Clark knows who Fieldhouse Files is? Scott Agnes Fieldhouse Files? You think Caitlin Clark doesn't know? You think if that was Caitlin Clark's girl?
This claim of a dark side did more than merely stir up controversy. It deliberately caused a great deal of dissension among Indiana Fever supporters. Scott Agnes' remarks set off a chain reaction that pitted devoted fans against one another and surely damaged the team's reputation. Caitlin Clark would have seen this as an irreparable transgression, as she was acutely conscious of her reputation among fans and the value of presenting a cohesive front. For her, it went beyond a reporter's viewpoint. It had to do with the honesty and cohesion of the community she stands for. An atmosphere of mistrust was fostered by the consequences from these remarks, and resentment directly impacting her connection to Agnes. He had aggressively attempted to undermine the pleasant atmosphere she tries to create, harming her public relations efforts as well as fan morale irreversibly.
You think Caitlin Clark knows who Fieldhouse Files is? Scott Agnes Fieldhouse Files? You think Caitlin Clark doesn't know? You think if that was Caitlin Clark's girl or Caitlin Clark's boy? You think if somehow Travis Kelce showed up there and asked him questions, you don't think she's shouting out the New Heights podcast? Of course she is. But Scott, she doesn't fuck with you. But she doesn't mess with you like that. Scott, what do you want from me? You thought you were going to get a shout out. Hey, everybody go follow Fieldhouse Files over there. She lets you... It's Scott Agnes with Fieldhouse Files? Oh, shit. This guy again.
However, the dark side remark was only one aspect of the narrative. By disclosing a serious injury that the team was making a concerted effort to conceal, Scott Agnes exacerbated his troublesome reporting. This information was not obtained through official sources by journalists. The team's strategy and privacy were compromised by the intentional leak, which increased internal and external strife. In the close-knit world of professional sports, such a betrayal of trust is nearly unacceptable, particularly when it comes to a player's health. It put Caitlin Clark's health and recuperation at risk. Plans into public scrutiny prematurely, pushing her to participate in upsetting her well-crafted career story. This careless disclosure exacerbated the split Clark had already caused by showing a flagrant disdain for the team's interests for his personal well-being. Not only among supporters, but possibly even within the squad itself, the disclosure of the concealed injury, especially through a paywall article, caused even deeper split. It revealed internal weaknesses and fostered mistrust, giving the impression that some information was being purposefully withheld from the public. For an athlete like Caitlin Clark, who thrives, this was a breach of her supporters' trust and openness. It put her and the team in a difficult situation where they had to deal with a leak instead of managing their own story. Agnes' choice solidified his reputation as a disruptive factor by directly complicating team communications and escalating the already tense relationship with the fan base. The reporter's actions unintentionally created a suspicious atmosphere, which had an immediate effect on team morale and public opinion. Regarding her public persona and her relationship with fans, Caitlin Clark is extremely cautious. She recognizes the value of a devoted fan base and the influence of perception. Scott Agnes's contentious remarks and unapproved injury reports directly at her. To make matters worse, Scott Agnes really decided to use a paywall piece to expose the team's secret information. This particular information makes matters worse by portraying his problematic reporting as a planned attempt to capitalize on a player's personal health issues rather than merely a journalistic endeavor. It implies a possible disrespect for the team's privacy and a desire for subscriptions and clicks. This probably strengthened Caitlin Clark's belief that Agnes was not operating in the team's or its best interests. Players, but rather for personal gain, thereby undermining any respect that is still there. Her obvious dislike was strengthened by the paywall feature, which transformed a betrayal of trust into a transactional act. It's important to recognize that Caitlin Clark's visceral response has nothing to do with having thin skin. It has to do with her deep comprehension of the sports world and her place in it. She is aware that her relationship with her fans is crucial and that her image is everything. Her reputation and legacy are directly threatened by any actions that sow division or cast a shadow over her or her staff. She is a phenomenon, not simply a player. And safeguarding the carefully built public persona from divisive storylines are of utmost importance. This was directly challenged by Agnes's reporting, which had Clark take a stand, even if it was an outward display of disgust, because the stakes were too great to ignore. Her tense manner and physical unease with Scott Agnes functioned as a potent, if silent, protest. In a society where athletes are frequently trained to maintain a neutral and stoic demeanor, Clark's incapacity to fully conceal her emotions spoke volumes. It was a nonverbal way for her to let him know that his actions had repercussions and would not be forgotten. This was not a statement prepared by PR. It was an unfiltered, genuine feeling that indicated a profound internal struggle that had been